going to read part of a psalm, but prior to reading it, because you know it so well, I just say to you, can you picture a ray of the sun coming down to a room? And I'm sure you've often been in this situation. You look up into it and you see all kinds of little specks of just flying in the ray of sunlight. And you suddenly are aware how many thousands there are there. And have you got hold of the fact that an electron, thinking of quanta, which we're all talking about, you know, what makes up all the matter in the world, quanta, electrons, one electron would be made up of millions of those specks. Or rather, I think it's the other way around. Those specks would have a million or millions of electrons in them. Each of those specks would have millions of electrons. That's what we mean when we talk about quanta, the small particles that make up the world. And actually, the amazing truth is the electron is something like 80% space. There's very little matter. The one who made that knows where every electron is. Now you just think about it. I mean, he has to. Somebody has to. Somebody must know where every electron is. Either he knows or somebody else who made it knows. Our God knows where every one of those electrons are. Every second, he knows where every one is. Now you need to think about it because it is so startling, and I'm sure your mind reacts as mine does. Impossible, impossible. Until you reflect, wait a minute, if it is impossible, then who does know? Is it chance? Well, who created chance then? I think you're driven to it. You know? I think the sheer logic drives you to accept that, of course, that's right. Of course, he must know. He must know where every one of those electrons is every second. And that is, of course, let's start at that Psalm 139. That's, of course, what it's saying very, very plainly. O Lord, thou hast searched me and known me. Thou knowest when I sit down and when I rise up. I'm a whole being with billions and billions of electrons, you know. But you know where I sit down and where I stand up. Thou discernest my thoughts from afar. Thou searchest out my path and my lying down, and art acquainted with all my ways. And then the next bit, you know. Even before a word is on my tongue, lo, O Lord, thou knowest it altogether. Thou dost beset me behind and before, and layest thy hand upon me. And then he confesses, you know, such knowledge is too wonderful for me. It's high. I cannot attain it. Now, I don't think we've really got hold of the truth when God made you, he foresaw everything that you and I would do. You know, I think we're a bit stupid on that. Marty, if you could get the whiteboard, I think I could do it a little here. But I think we're a bit naive on that, you know. We say, well, now, wait a minute, I mean, what about free will? And then if you could get me a marker, I can use it, thank you. We say, well, what about free will? I mean, he doesn't know what I'm going to do. But that's what the Bible says. He has beset me behind and before. That God knows. He knows. I'm sorry, you've got the advantage of action. They love to watch. Yes, no, that's good. So, yeah, that's right, brother. It's hard to compete with you. You always notice that as a teacher. Don't distract them. If there's somebody over there, they'll all be looking there. Thank you. But it's something we just can't get hold of, you know. We think, oh, God made this little Martha Nelson, you know, back there. Yes, he made, but there's a whole life that she has to live, and who knows what way she'll go. Even parents have a fair idea what way their child will go, you know. But take any of us who have made anything, and we'll be able to tell fairly well what that thing will do, or what it's capable of. Even if I we used to make guiders with wheels on them in the old days, and you make a guider, I know what weight it will hold. I know how fast it will turn a corner. Even we who are such crude little creatures, we know what we make. Of course, our Father does not make something. He does not throw a dice. He does not make a little Martha Nelson, a little Ernest O'Neill, and throw them in there and see what will do. No. He doesn't say, now I wonder what way they'll go. You know he doesn't. He knows all our capacities. He knows all the things we'll do. He can see the whole thing. He can see everybody that Martha Nelson will ever meet in her lifetime. Why? Because he sees it all in one moment. You know. Back to that situation of the guy, you remember, with the procession going past, you know, and he's down here looking through a hole, isn't that it? He looks through a hole in the fence, he just sees the one that's immediately in front of him. Sees it, but then his brother gets up onto this roof, and of course he can see the ones back here, he can see the ones there, he can see the whole thing at once. He doesn't just see the passing procession at that point, he sees the before and after. God sees it all as one great moment. He sees the whole thing in a moment. And he sees Martha Nelson's life all in one moment. And that's true with each of us. God has seen our whole life at once. And the reason he made us in his dear Son was so that he could take care of that. So that in his Son we would continue to live whatever way we turned. And so the Father's line for Martha Nelson was there. But she started there, and then she wandered away out here. And he put her in his dear Son, so that in his Son he could overcome the world and bring her back into there. And then when she wandered out here at 10 or 11, he put her in his dear Son, so that his Son could bear what this deviation is sin. We all make out sin is a terrible thing. Sin is not a terrible thing. Sin is just independence of God. It's just living as if you're your own boss. It's living as if you've made yourself. And that's what happens when we deviate. And God knows that. And he bears that sin in his Son. And he works each of us according to the counsel of his will. He brings you back again. And it doesn't matter which way we go. God lovingly, without exerting power over our wills. That's the amazing thing. That's how kind he is. By using all kinds of things, circumstances, people, little thoughts he puts in our minds. But the amazing thing is, he always works with us. It's what Jesus said, I work and he works also. God really does have no hands but our hands. Everything he brings about in this world, he brings about through us. Sometimes while we know it, sometimes when we don't know it. But he's always working everything according to the counsel of his will. And he knows the future. And he knows every event. He knows what Trisha's going to do this week. He knows the people you're going to meet. He knows the things, the decisions you'll make. He knows the way you'll tend wrongly in your thoughts or rightly in your thoughts. And he's working inside his Son to lovingly bring you back and work according to the counsel of his will to work out your life. That's why the Bible says, work out your salvation with fear and trembling. For it is God that is working in you both to will and to do his good pleasure. And old Bart has a nice phrase. He says, God accompanies man. He accompanies him. The man goes out here, God goes out with him. He goes out there, God goes out with him. God accompanies us. And he says, why I use that word is, God doesn't force us. He goes with us. He does what we do. And he stays with us in it and lovingly and graciously brings us back. And that's our life. That's what walking by faith is. Walking in that reality. God knows the future. And in his Son, he has overcome the world. And of course, the significance of that is, there is really only one human being. Remember, that's that amazing verse in Matthew, when the Son of Man comes in his glory and all his holy angels with him, then will be gathered all the nations, and he will separate them as a shepherd separates the sheep from the goats. When the Son of Man comes in his glory, that talks about Jesus coming in his glory from the heavens after the world is over, and he calls him the Son of Man. That's why the verse is so important in Colossians 3 and 15. Or 1 and 15, I think it is. He is the very express image of the invisible God. He is the firstborn of all creation. In him all things coexist. All things hold together. We were all made in the one human being, Jesus. And that's what constitutes us as human beings. And it's in Jesus that he has overcome the world. And so he has dealt with everything. I know it sounds royal to you. But the movie that we saw last night with the poor girl being abandoned by her husband, and then ending up, you remember, in a life that was very unsatisfactory. God knows that that would take place. And he already works to bring her life into a place where she is able to fulfill what he had in mind for her. Now, the world has no idea of that at all. When it comes against a difficulty, it just does its best, and usually it can do nothing about it, so it ends up in dissatisfaction, discontent, and worry and anxiety. Now, in fact, the real situation is this. Our Father is continuing to love each one of us and take care of us, and is continuing moment by moment and day by day to bring us back into the counsel of his will. Now, if you say to me, will it solve everything? Will it make everything right? Oh, not according to our idea of right. Because our idea of right is no cancer, no sickness, no pain, no anything. The Father knows what will bring us into the likeness of his Son, what will conform us to the beauty of Jesus. And that is not necessarily freedom from cancer. It's not necessarily freedom from disease. It's not necessarily freedom from troubles. God himself knows. But when you see truth like this, then you're able to rest content. Even though I don't understand it exactly, I know that my Father does. And I know he's after something here. He's after a fullness of the stature of Jesus in me here that I haven't got. And that's why he's bringing me this way. It changes everything. It just changes everything. When you realize that God is really in charge of the future, but not as a dominating dictator who uses robots to do what he wants them to do, but as a loving Father who accompanies his child. Shepherd child. How about that way? How about that way? No. How about that way, I said. How about that way? Gentle, kindly, and always working with his own power to bring about differences in our circumstances that we ourselves cannot bring about. And so he has really called us to a joyful life. He has really called us to a life of joy that lives in the midst of that reality and rejoices continually. And if you say to me, lies back and drinks Coca-Cola and eats ice cream all day, no, Bart is right, slothfulness is not what God is after. But a life of action that stems from joy. That's it. A life of action that stems from joy. From the joy of knowing my Father has seen my whole life. He knows exactly what he's put me here to do, and he is going to bring that about, and all I have to do is keep my eyes on him and live the life that he's given me to live, and live it with joy. And that gets the best sales. That produces the best sales, produces the best sermons, produces the best writing, the best everything. When it's done out of joy and not anxiety, not a strong stoic determination, but a real faith that my Father does know when I sit down and when I rise up, and he has set me behind and before, and he has placed me inside his own Son, and that's what holds me together, and inside him I have overcome the world because he has overcome the world. It's an utterly different life. And of course it's what the society, the dear society, has no notion of. And that's not the gospel here. It's either the gospel of power positive thinking, think and you can make yourself, which just is an expression, it's an intensifying of sin. It's do it yourself, you're a self-existent person. If you think right, you can overcome the thing. It has that on the one side, and it has just downright hopelessness on the other, where there's no hope in the world. There's nothing we can do. The whole thing is going to hell anyway. So there is tremendous need. You can see the real difference if somebody walks into their store with a different attitude. So I pray, that God will give you the revelation to see it all, because it is the truth. And